The sun was setting over the bustling city of Onitsha, casting long shadows over the crowded streets. In a small, run-down apartment in the heart of the city, a figure moved through the dimly lit rooms. Chinedu, the petty thief, known for his quick fingers and even quicker wit, had made a living from the unwary and unsuspecting. Tonight, however, he had a different target in mind. He had heard whispers of a valuable treasure hidden away in the apartment of a wealthy businessman, and he was determined to get his hands on it. As he crept through the darkened rooms, his heart beating with excitement, he heard a noise that made him freeze in his tracks. The sound of footsteps coming closer, the creaking of floorboards under heavy weight. Chinedu's eyes widened in fear as he realized he wasn't alone. Before he could react, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, a glint of steel in his hand. Chinedu stumbled backwards, but it was too late. The blade slashed through the air, and pain exploded in his chest. He collapsed on the ground, blood pooling around him as his life drained away. The killer stood over him, a cold smile on his face. It was Obinna, a rival thief who had been tracking Chinedu for weeks. He had seen an opportunity to eliminate his competitor and had taken it with deadly precision. The last of Chinedu's breath left his body. Obinna bent down and rifled through his pockets, searching for anything of value. Finding nothing, he cursed under his breath and turned to leave. But as he made his way to the door, a voice stopped him in his tracks. "Obinna, what have you done?" He wheeled around to see a figure standing in the doorway, a look of horror on her face. It was Amaka, Chinedu's younger sister. She had come looking for him, worried when he hadn't returned home. Now she stood frozen in shock, staring at the bloody scene before her. Obinna's eyes narrowed as he realized the danger she posed. He lunged at her, grabbing her by the throat and slamming her against the wall. "Keep quiet, girl," he hissed, the blade pressed against her neck, "or you end up like your brother." Amaka's eyes widened in fear, but she nodded, too terrified to speak. Obinna released her with a snare and shoved her into the room, locking the door behind him. He knew he couldn't leave any witnesses behind. Days passed, and the city buzzed with rumors of the brutal murder that had taken place in the heart of Onitsha. The police were on high alert, determined to catch the killer before he struck again. Amaka, consumed with grief and rage, vowed to seek justice for her brother's death. She knew she couldn't rely on the authorities to solve the case, so she took matters into her own hands. Armed with only her wits and her determination, she set out to track down the man who had taken everything from her. Her search led her to seedy underbelly of the city, where she crossed paths with criminals and lowlifes of all kinds. But she refused to be deterred, pushing forward with single-minded purpose. Finally, after weeks of investigation, she caught wind of a man who matched the description of her brother's killer. Obinna, it seemed, had been boasting of his crime to anyone who would listen. Amaka's heart raced with anticipation as she drew closer to her target. She found him in a run-down bar on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by his lackeys and reveling in his newfound notoriety. As she approached, he looked up, a sneer on his face. Well, 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 he taunted. If it isn't the little sister of that no good thief I took care of. Come to exact your revenge, have you? Amaka's hand went to the concealed weapon at her side, her eyes cold and unyielding. I've come to make you pay for what you did, she said, her voice low and dangerous. Obinna laughed, a cruel sound that sent shivers down her spine. He waved a dismissive hand at his henchmen, urging them to attack. But as they advanced, Amaka moved with a lightning speed, striking out with deadly precision. In a whirlwind of violence, she incapacitated them one by one. Her movements fluid and precise. Obinna watched in shock as his men fell before her, his confidence wavering. With a final swift blow, Amaka disarmed him and held the weapon to his throat, her eyes burning with fury. Do you remember my brother now? She hissed, her voice filled with venom. Obinna's face became pale, his bravado crumbling in the face of her relentless determination. I'm sorry, he stammered, his eyes wild with fear. I didn't mean to kill him. It was a mistake. Amaka's grip tightened on the blade, her resolve unwavering. A mistake that cost my brother his life, she said, her voice cold and unyielding. You will pay for what you have done. With swift motion, she plunged the blade into his chest, her expression unwavering as she watched the life drain from his eyes. Blood pooled around him, staining the filthy floor of the bar. The scene seemed to play in slow motion, but with a final shudder, Obinna's eyes glazed over, lifeless. Standing over his lifeless body, a sense of closure began to wash over her. The debt has been repaid. Justice had been served. But the memory of her brother's death would still weigh heavily in her heart, a painful reminder of the darkness lurking in the shadows of the city. As she turned to leave, her hands still trembling with the adrenaline coursing through her veins, she heard a faint noise, the sound of someone drawing breath. Startled, she spun around to find one of Obinna's henchmen slowly regaining consciousness. His eyes flickered open, locking onto her with a mixture of pain and something that resembled gratitude. Thank you, he whispered weakly. You have saved me. Confused, Amaka knelt beside him cautiously. What do you mean? I never wanted to be here. Obinna forced me into this life, the man confessed, wincing in pain. I always dreamt of living. You gave me that chance. Amaka's fierce demeanor softened slightly as she looked at him. What is your name? Nnamdi, he replied, trying to sit up. Seeing an opportunity that could possibly lead to more information about the criminal networks that plagued Onitsha, Amaka made a decision. Nnamdi, if you truly want to leave this life behind, you will help me dismantle Obinna's operations. Guide me to the heart of it all. Nnamdi nodded slowly, understanding that this might be his only shot at redemption. I will. There is much more you need to know. With Nnamdi's help, Amaka delved deeper into the underworld of Onitsha, uncovering hidden truths and unraveling complex webs of deceit and corruption. Together, they uncovered the connections between Obinna and other powerful figures, who secretly controlled large parts of the city's criminal network. Amaka learned that her brother's death was not merely the result of a petty rivalry, but part of a larger conspiracy that involved influential businessmen and corrupt officials. Chinedu had stumbled upon something far more significant during his theft attempts, a ledger with names and payouts that could topple powerful individuals. Nnamdi led Amaka through the darkest alleys and hidden hideouts, exposing the underpinnings of an empire built on crime and exploitation. Their journey was fraught with danger, but Amaka's resolve remained unbreakable, fueled by her desire for justice and her newfound sense of purpose. One night, under the cover of darkness, they infiltrated a heavily guarded mansion on the outskirts of the city, the residence of Chief Okoye, a respected businessman with deep ties to the criminal underworld. Inside, they found the evidence they needed: financial records, documents detailing illicit activities, and a safe filled with cash. Just as Amaka and Nnamdi were about to make their escape, they were confronted by Chief Okoye himself, flanked by armed guards. With a sinister smile, he addressed them. "You've been a thorn on my side for too long, Amaka. Did you really think you could walk away with my secrets?" Amaka's eyes burned with defiance. "I'll see you are brought to justice, just as I did with Obinna." A tense standoff ensued, the seconds stretching into eternity as both sides weighed their options. Finally, in a moment of desperation, Nnamdi launched at one of the guards, disarming him and creating a brief window of opportunity. Amaka seized the moment, battling her way through the guards with tenacity and skill. Together, she and Nnamdi fought their way to freedom, clutching the evidence that would expose Chief Okoye and his network. In the days that followed, Amaka used the information she had gathered to reveal the depths of corruption and criminality that had plagued her city for far too long. The public outcry was immense, and the authorities had no choice but to act. Chief Okoye and many of his associates were arrested, their empires dismantled. Amaka felt a profound sense of relief as she witnessed the impact of her efforts. The city of Onitsha, once shadowed by the dark dealings of its underworld, began to reclaim its vibrancy. Streets that were once rife with fear started to feel safer, and citizens could sense the winds of change. Nnamdi, having played a critical role in bringing the empire down, decided to start anew. He took up work at a local charity dedicated to rehabilitating former criminals. Amaka helped him secure this job, ensuring he would be an inspiring example for others wanting to leave an unlawful past behind. However, for Amaka, the fight was far from over. She knew that even as one network crumbled, another could rise in its place. Corruption never truly vanishes. It simply waits for the opportune moment to re-emerge. Determined to keep her city safe, she decided to form an alliance with those who shared her vision, reforming Onitsha from inside out. Her journey led her to collaborate with honest police officers frustrated by the constraints of a compromised system. Together, they launched a community-driven initiative aimed at nurturing youth potentials and offering alternatives to a life of crime. Amaka spearheaded educational workshops, athletic programs, and vocational trainings, breathing hope into the heart of Onitsha. As the months turned into years, Amaka became a beacon of hope and resilience for the city. Her name became synonymous with justice, and her tireless work did not go unnoticed. Gradually, key political figures and influential leaders began to back her efforts, allocating resources and support to further her initiative. One evening, as Amaka found herself standing at the edge of her neighborhood, looking out over the city she had fought so hard to protect, Nnamdi approached her, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "You've done something incredible here," he said, his voice filled with genuine respect. Amaka smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes as she thought of her brother. "I just want to make sure this never happens to anyone else." Chinedu would have wanted the same thing. Nnamdi nodded. "And you've honored his memory by transforming the city. You've inspired so many, including me." They stood in silence for a moment. The city lights shimmered like stars in the night sky. A sense of fulfillment washed over Amaka. Though the path ahead was still fraught with challenges, she knew she was not alone. She had allies, friends, and community that believed in her and the cause she championed. As word of her success spread through Onitsha, Amaka found herself invited to speak at conferences and forums, sharing her experiences in the global fight against organized crime and corruption. Her story resonated, a testament to the power of determination and the impact one person could make. During one such event held in the capital city of Abuja, Amaka was approached by a young woman with wild, eager eyes. "Miss Amaka," she said, her voice trembling with excitement, "I just wanted to say how much your story inspired me. I want to help my own community the way you've helped yours." Amaka smiled warmly, taking the young woman's hands in hers. "Never underestimate the power of what you can achieve. Believe in yourself and never be afraid to fight for what is right." In the years that followed, the legacy of Amaka's battle against corruption lived on. Onitsha slowly blossomed into a city that balanced its rich cultural heritage with a newfound sense of security and community spirit. Streets, once dominated by fear and criminal activities, were now filled with children playing and families thriving. One evening, as the sun set over Onitsha, casting a golden hue over the city, Amaka sat with a group of young students who were eager to hear her stories of her journey. She spoke of her trials and triumphs, of her brother's memory, and of the relentless pursuit of justice. As they listened intently, their eyes wild with admiration, Amaka felt a sense of hope for the future. These children, the next generation, would grow up in a city touched by change, aware of the sacrifices made to secure their brighter tomorrow. With each passing day, Amaka continued her mission, driven by a deep, unshakable resolve. The scars of her past were reminders of the battles fought and won, but they were also symbols of her strength and resilience. In the end, Amaka had become more than just a vigilante seeking revenge. She had evolved into a leader who reshaped her city and inspired a generation. Her journey was far from over, but she knew that as long as there was darkness, she will be there, a beacon of light and justice in the city of Onitsha. Amaka's life had taken a new rhythm, balancing the responsibilities of her role as a community leader with the personal toll the past years had taken on her. She had become a mentor to many, guiding young people who might have otherwise been lost to the same pitfalls Chinedu had faced. Her story had a gravitational pull that attracted those who believed in change, drawing them into a collective goal to rebuild their city. One day, as she was sorting through paperwork in her mother's office, located in the heart of Onitsha, she received a letter. The official seal of the federal government was marked on it, causing a flicker of curiosity to sneak through her wary focus. Opening it, she read, "Dear Miss Amaka, in recognition of your exemplary contributions towards combating corruption and spearheading community reforms in Onitsha, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is honored to invite you to receive the National Achievement in Justice and Community Leadership Award. We believe your work sets a precedent for others and serves as a brilliant furthering of the public good. Sincerely, Minister of Justice." A maze of emotions played on Amaka's face: surprise, pride, and a touch of uncertainty. She felt honored, but accolades were never her aim. Yet, she knew that such recognition could provide more substantial support for her endeavors. As the day of the award ceremony approached, Amaka found herself reflecting on the winding, arduous path that had brought her here. The faces of those she had lost, like her brother Chinedu, paraded through her memories, a painful reminder of the cost of this victory. But she also remembered the faces of those she had saved: the children, the reformed criminals, the community members who now thrived. The night of the ceremony was grand, held in a moonlit garden in Abuja. Dressed in a simple but elegant traditional Nigerian attire, Amaka felt the weight of her journey with each step. She was surrounded by dignitaries, politicians, and fellow honorees, all pillars of various communities making strides against adversity. When her name was called, she walked up to the podium amidst resonant applause, the thin sheet of nerves dissipating as she saw familiar faces in the crowd. Nnamdi, now a community leader in his own right, her mother, who had quietly supported her through the grief and struggle, and others who had become her allies. She took a deep breath, her voice steady and strong. "Thank you," she began, looking across the audience, her eyes filled with determination. "This award is not just for me. It is for all the brave souls who stood against the tides of corruption. It is for every young person who dared to dream of a future different from the past thrust upon them. When I began this journey, it was out of desire for justice, yes, also for something more, hope. Hope that we as a community could reclaim our city from the hands of those who sought to ruin it. Every child in Onitsha can now walk to school safely. Every mother can now rest knowing her family is secure, and these represent the essence of our struggle." Pausing, she felt the weight of her next words. "This fight is far from over. Our victory is a ripple in the vast ocean of change that Nigeria so desperately needs. We must remember that darkness will always seek to creep back in where the light wins. It is our duty to keep the torch burning, to never let complacency become the villain in our story. The room was silent, hanging on her every word. She concluded, "This award belongs to all who dare to defy corruption and criminality. Let us be vigilant, let us be brave, and let us move forward together. Thank you." As she descended the podium amid applause, several influential figures approached her, expressing their admiration and offering their support for her initiatives. The recognition had indeed opened doors, providing an influx of resources and partnerships that would further her cause. Back in Onitsha, the momentum continued to build. With the new fundings and alliances, Amaka's vision of a community center became a reality. It was more than just a building. It was a beacon of hope and change. The center offered various programs: education for at-risk youth, vocational training, counseling services, and recreational activities that fostered a sense of community and belonging. One of the standout successes was a program called the Second Chance Initiative, aimed at reintegrating former criminals into the society. Nnamdi played a significant role here, mentoring new participants and showing them that a better path was possible. Amaka's effort also included working closely with law enforcement agents to root out remaining corruption. Regular town hall meetings were established where community members could voice their concerns and work collaboratively with officials to address issues. Transparency and accountability became the hallmarks of a new era in Onitsha. Hope you enjoyed my story. Thank you for being here. Kindly subscribe for more stories. Love you so much. Your support will go a long way to boost my little channel. Please subscribe. Thank you. Bye.